You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Two podcasts in the same week. What is going on here?
The first one was a very special one.
Very special.
About a team song.
Like an episode of Full House.
Yeah, hopefully everybody listened to that, and we're going to try to make this one a very special one. A very special normal one, which I realize is just an oxymoron. But, that's what we're going to aim for.
I like it. It sounds like a plan to me. We had a whole lot of fun earlier this week. Benjamin Hill, the star of a show before the show episode that is more melodic than any one we have put together so far, focusing all on team songs. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show today. But with that, we welcome you into our regularly scheduled programming, this week's edition of the Minor League Baseball podcast, the show before the show. I am Tyler Mon in Denver, Colorado, and New York City is one Sam Dykstra, and this is the 55th edition of the show before the show. Hey, Sam.
Hello.
Hello,
Tyler. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, man.
Second full week of the season.
Yeah, second full week of the season. We got, like 10 inches of snow out here, so it feels great. It doesn't make me furious at all, let me tell you.
It's coming soon, I swear. Spring is coming soon.
At some point, you would imagine that it has to be here. It is in many places. In most places, spring has arrived. The minor league baseball season is in full swing finally, and we are getting off and running on this week's edition of the Show Before the Show podcast with our 3-strike segment for the week. Before we get into it, give us a rating, give us a review, give us a subscription. We are on iTunes, the Minor League Baseball podcast. You can find us there. We're also at MILB.com/podcast. You can catch up on all past episodes, figure out who we've had on, timestamps for certain episodes. You want to remember something you heard in an interview. We've got all the details on that stuff there. And, let us know what you think. You can get in touch with us. Sam's on Twitter. He's at Sam Dykstra, MILB. I am at Tyler Mon. You can email the podcast at MILB.com as well. Let's get rolling. Strike one for this week's edition of the show. Shortstops. Young, good shortstops are first up for us. Alex Bregman of the Houston Astros system, Dansby Swanson, and the Atlanta Braves organization. Two guys who are going to be joined at the hip for a lot of their careers based on where they were taken in the 2015 Major League First-Year Player Draft. Alex Bregman is scorching out of the gate in the Astros system. Dansby Swanson, we talked about him a little bit in his assignment to Class A Advanced Carolina rather than being assigned to Double A Mississippi. Sam, give me your early impressions of these two guys, where they're starting, what it means for their first swing through full season ball, especially the way that Alex Bregman has really heated up after, last year at times having good stretches, made it to Class A Advanced with Lancaster last year at the end of the season. Dansby Swanson just tore the cover off the ball with Class A short season Hillsboro before he was traded this offseason, but it seems like so far kind of different tracks for them in 2016.
Yeah, so what really kicked off this question for me was just Bregman's hot start. I mean, you mentioned it. He's moved up to Double A Corpus Christi. Feels a little bit of an aggressive assignment. We'll talk about kind of stuff of that nature in a little while, but only 22 years old, first full season. They're throwing him right into the deep end there at Double A. I know Houston really liked what they saw out of him this year at spring training, first spring training of any kind. They invited him right to the major league camp. I remember talking to Carlos Correa. He was impressed by him. So when you have a top dog in the system in a shortstop like Carlos Correa and he likes what he sees, that's certainly a good start. So the Astros really like what they had in Bregman, and then he's just really taken the assignment and ran with it. And he's already up to 5 homers, which we have a story on the site about how he's already surpassed his 2015 total. You might be saying at home, well, it was his draft year, so he didn't play as much last year. He played 66 games last year and hit 4 homers. This year at Double A, which is a significant jump, he's hit 5 in 11 games. So that's just those are just numbers that really pop out to you at the beginning. He's hitting .395, passing all the tests you could ask. He's struck out 3 times. He's walked 6. So he's got a really, really good eye against that advanced pitching of Double A. Sometimes you're going up against guys with major league arms, major league experience. So to see him do that is really interesting. And the reason I want to kind of not necessarily compare him to Swanson, because they're in different camps, different systems surely, and different situations. but they're always going to kind of be paired a little bit in that Swanson went 1 last year and Bregman went 2, and they were both college shortstops, so they're very comparable, faced very similar competition. So, is it ever going to look like a mistake that the D-backs took Swanson over Bregman? If you were just to look at very, very small samples and you wanted to, make a hot take and put that on the oven for a good long while and take it off, you could say, well, obviously Bregman is the better player right now. He's performing better at a higher level. Pump the brakes on that a little bit. He's doing very well so far, passing all the tests, doing everything the Astros want. I wouldn't say he's necessarily the better player than Swanson, who I think is a better runner, a better defender. There's questions about whether Bregman's going to move over to second or third eventually. Obviously, Correa at short doesn't help that. He's not going to bump him off that position. Swanson, there's that debate with Albies that we've talked about in the past. Swanson could easily move to second as well, but he probably has a better chance at sticking to short than Bregman does. So there's a lot going on there other than just offensive numbers. But with both guys, I mean, I haven't mentioned what Swanson's been doing at the plate yet, but he's been, like you said, last year he was tearing the ball, the cover off the ball. He's doing that again this year. 7 doubles in 12 games, hasn't homered yet, but he's hitting .367, .426 on base percentage with a .510 slugging and 4 steals. So he's showing a nice bit of power for that position. He's certainly making contact with the ball. And, he's showing the plus speed that everybody knows he has to begin with. So both guys getting off to good starts in their first full seasons. We're going to have to wait a few years, obviously, until we kind of settle this debate. But it's fun to see 2 guys who we knew were talented, who we knew were a little bit comparable, always going to be paired together, both making it fun in that debate.
Yeah, and it's, as Sam couched it, it's so early. It's so early to have that. And again, this is why it fascinates me that the prospect community has blown up so much in recent years, while the Twitter community has simultaneously blown up in recent years, because evaluating prospects, evaluating talent in baseball is not something you can do on a snap judgment. This dude's succeeding. He's the better prospect. Knee-jerk reaction. Like when you evaluate a trade, when you evaluate a draft, when you evaluate an acquisition of any kind in baseball, it takes so much longer to determine whether or not that is a success than maybe it takes in the NFL or maybe it takes in the NBA or whatever it is. So it's difficult to couch it with anything other than that caution. What I think it does show is that both of these guys, the hype was real surrounding both of them. Now, Alex Bregman last season, I mean, we saw that it was not a super easy adjustment into pro ball for him at the outset. When he got started with Class A full season Quad Cities, he only OPS 699 in 29 games there. The strikeout numbers were pretty decent. He fanned 13 times and walked 17 times in 29 games at that level. Jumped up to the Class A Advanced California League and was better offensively. OPS 839, struck out 17 times, walked 12 times in 37 games there. So the strike zone command, the ability to be getting good looks was there the whole time. That's what I think really shows that a guy is ready for an advanced level. For Dansby Swanson, last season was very impressive in all of those regards as well, but in a much smaller sample size. He only played 22 total games with Hillsboro, struck out 14 times, walked 14 times, OPS 876, he batted 289. We saw him come together with his teammates and come up big in really big spots, had the walk-off hit in the playoffs that I think sent Hillsboro to the championship series. Is that right, in the Northwest League? I can't remember where it...
I know he had a big walk-off in the playoffs.
It was the day that we had him on the show. Too.
Oh, that's
we
right.
We had him on, and then
got,
that
he
night,
got the good old podcast bump that we haven't really put into we haven't tested that out this season, so we'll see how that works out.
That's true. That is true. So I think what it shows is that both of these guys are very legitimate prospects in what their organizations were hoping from them. Now, for Dansby Swanson, it's what 2 organizations were hoping, because the Arizona Diamondbacks passed on him very quickly, trading him over this offseason to the Braves. But I think, especially as a Georgia kid, a guy who grew up in Braves country, he is somebody who has injected a ton of excitement in that organization just based on what his future profile can be. What the Braves have that the Astros don't have in the same regard, the Astros have their guy at the major league level in Carlos Correa what the Braves have is they have somebody basically at the same level as Dansby Swanson and Ozzie Albies that really presents a challenge in how you develop not only Swanson, but Albies too. I mean, where does each guy get looks at what level? Do you try them at different positions? Do you test them in the outfield? Do you test them as a double play combination? Do you test them simultaneously at the same level? That to me is the more intriguing facet of Swanson's development than just how he compares to his peers in that draft class of last year. But either way, if I'm an Astros fan, if I'm a Braves fan, I'm really excited about both of these dudes.
Yeah, and in that kind of way with Albies, I mean, they are both prospects. There's a decent chance, as much as every Braves fan wants it to happen, that they are going to be, you know, the next great double play combination in Atlanta for years and years to come, the Vizquel Alomar type situation, but younger and growing up together. There's a decent chance that one or the other doesn't make it to the majors. I mean, they are still young, they are still prospects, so they're going to want to get them as much time at short as they can. And that's what kind of led them to move them at different levels, even though they really should both be at high A. The fact that Ozzie Albies is at Double A speaks volumes about what they think about him and how they are kind of attacking having those two guys in the system.
Going to be fun. Good problems to have when you have way too many good guys and can't find enough innings for them at the exact spots where you want to. Man, it's got to be fun to be in charge of those systems.
It's certainly desirable. A lot of systems would love to have that.
Strike two dovetails out of that perfectly. I use the term dovetails a lot on this podcast, and I don't think I use it properly. But either way, I think something has to dovetail with or on, and I said dovetails out of. I don't know.
I accept it. I wouldn't have said anything. We haven't gotten any nasty comments on the internet yet about your
That's true.
Dovetail, so
Yet.
Feel free to dovetail.
The dovetail police are coming.
Yeah.
Strike two, Sam. We're going to discuss aggressive assignments. This is something that plays in very much to what Alex Bregman gets at the start of this year. But beyond just that, I mean, testing a guy who was a very high-level draft pick and was a very productive, major university star at Double-A, that happens. There are other assignments that tend to surprise you a little bit going into a minor league season. Every year this kind of stuff happens. What sticks out to you about young prospects and where they are this year?
Yeah, so we've kind of touched on the most aggressive ones so far in talking about Albies and talking about Bregman. We've talked about Anderson Espinoza in the past, a guy who's only 18 years old. I think he was the youngest player in all of minor league baseball to get a full season assignment on opening day. So the fact that he's starting at full season ball when he was, just a guy on a complex at this time last year in the Dominican is huge, and that speaks volumes on what the Red Sox think about him and the way he has performed so far and what their plan is for him. They really, really want to get a full season out of him, but limit his innings and keep a close eye on that. So that's an interesting, aggressive assignment. Looking at another pitcher, Carson Fulmer, we've written a little bit about him in the past, and the White Sox keep talking about how they're not necessarily going to use him in the mold that they use former college pitchers that they drafted in the first round with Chris Sale and Carlos Rodon, who moved quickly, got to the majors really, really quickly. But even when you step back and view Fulmer as a prospect, he's at Double A right now. Normally these college guys get moved to High A. I mean, I know that was the case for Andrew Benintendi, and he was the Golden Spikes winner, and actually absolutely destroyed the ball last year when he made his first moves into the Red Sox system. If you ever thought there was a college player who could potentially move to Double A early, it might have been Benintendi, and yet he's at High A because that's just the route I think most of those guys go. Even A.J. Reed, started out at High A Lancaster last year before moving up to Double A. So Carson Fulmer starting out at Birmingham, I think, speaks a little bit of volume, or a little bit to the aggressiveness of what the White Sox, or the aggressiveness the White Sox think they can be with their college pitchers. He hasn't been that great so far, so we'll have to kind of keep an eye on him. He might have a future in the bullpen, but the fact that they're pushing him as a rotation guy right now at that high level will certainly be one of the more interesting things in this first half of the season. And then you kind of look at it from the other way. There's aggressive assignments, and then there's I'll call them passive assignments, but I guess it's more
I don't know what the word would be for that, but I know exactly what you're going for. The opposite of this. Guys who would expect to maybe be a little bit further along. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not necessarily passive. Passive would just mean they completely took hands off. Obviously, they have plans for these guys. But I remember when he got assigned, I really had to take a step back and wonder why that was. Dylan Tate, the Rangers moved him to Class A Hickory, just your low A, Class A full season Hickory. This was a guy who used to be a closer in college and then made the move to a starter at UC Santa Barbara. So maybe there's worries about adding too much, putting too much on him by giving him an aggressive assignment. Then you remember it's the Ranger system, so that maybe they don't want to have him start out the year at high desert and just throw him into the Cal League where there's a potential for him to get destroyed, not by his own doing. So I understand that, but Tate was a guy, I think he was taken number 4 overall last year. He's the number 34 overall prospect. He's got a fastball and a slider that are both 65 pitches, which are certainly good enough to play at the A level. They're certainly good enough to play at the high A level, and you can make an argument that they're good enough to play at even the double A level. I'm sure what happened was they did not want to put him in high desert, so they bumped him down a bit. That just feels like a waste of development time for him, and he's destroyed that level so far. He's done really, really well in the Sally League. So it just feels like he's getting his innings in, but is it really helping him? I'm not sure. Striking out a guy in half an inning isn't necessarily – it does a lot for the confidence, but it's not going to test him in the way that you would want somebody like him to be tested. We've talked in the past about J.P. Crawford, him getting sent back to Reading. I think that's a little bit of the Phillies just wanting to pump his brakes a little bit. They don't want to push him too fast. They're not in a hurry. They're not necessarily like the Astros or the Indians last year, who both brought up their high-end shortstops because they were looking to fight for playoff places. The Phillies don't need to rush Crawford. They know they're not necessarily going to compete this year. They want him to get in more development time. I would have loved to see him on that Lehigh Valley team. I think that's the most interesting team in the minors this year, even without Crawford. And once him and Roman Quinn join that team, that'll be even more special. So I would have liked to see him there. And then you're talking about Trey Turner, we've written a lot about and talked a lot about, a guy who I think should be in the majors right now. He's a major league hitter. He's a major league defender, a major league runner. But because of service time, has to be in Syracuse. So there's all sorts of ways you can kind of view these assignments when they come out at the beginning of the season. But some are obviously much more aggressive than others, and you always have to view them in the prism of where these guys are in the system, where they are in their development, and what the teams are looking for out of their upcoming seasons.
Would you say, this is kind of a weird question to ask, but would you say that Lucas Giolito falls into the less aggressive, I don't want to say, again, like not using the word passive or least aggressive assignment, but Giolito doesn't necessarily seem like the type of guy who you look at and you go, oh man, what is he doing in Double A? But at the same time, it almost sort of feels like he would have been given one of those aggressive assignments, and maybe it's a weather thing, although you're not really saving a whole lot of cold weather by going to Harrisburg rather than going to Syracuse. Do you think he falls into that category?
I would hesitate to put him in that category. I certainly understand where he's coming, where you're coming from, where any Nationals fans at home listening would be coming from on that question. Just because you hear about his stuff, he's now the top overall prospect in the game with Seager and Buxton officially graduating this year. We all heard about his stuff. The hype this spring was that he will be in the Nationals rotation by, I feel like it kept getting moved up. He'll be there by September. He'll be there by the All-Star break. He'll be there by Super 2. I don't think there's any rush to get him there, especially this is a guy who's still coming off a Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago. He only made 8 starts at Double A last year. I understand it, and with his stuff, it probably could play in the majors right now, and there's any chance that the Nats could say, you know what, yes, we want you here, we want you working with our staff. But that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to push him to AAA just because his stuff could play there. They want him to get a little more experience at the AA level, get a little more than the 47 1/3 innings he had there last year.
Two guys who I want to touch on with aggressive assignments real quickly, who are back-to-back in the MLB Pipeline Top 100 rankings. Gleyber Torres with the Chicago Cubs, who goes to Class A Advanced Myrtle Beach this year. He's just 19. He actually finished last season at that level. So, again, it's an aggressive assignment, and yet it's an assignment that's on track with his development and where he is. But still, at 19 to be playing regularly in the Carolina League is not an easy thing to do. And on the other side of the coin, we talked about earlier with Dansby Swanson, Ozzie Albies, I think, has to go in that conversation, too. He jumps completely completely over the Class A advanced level, going from last year in the South Atlantic League with the Rome Braves. He jumps to the Mississippi Braves this year, and he's handling himself very, very well in Double-A. An 838 OPS, a 327 average through his first 12 games there. We're recording this on Tuesday afternoon. And aside from those guys, one guy who is also at the same level as Ozzie Albies is Christian Arroyo in the San Francisco Giants organization. And the top prospect in that system right now is maybe a little bit different from the top prospect in a whole lot of other systems because of where the depth is with the Giants at this stage. But the Giants love Christian Arroyo. And talking with those guys about what he can do, Shane Turner, the Giants farm director, talked about Christian Arroyo and his approach offensively in a way that I don't think he talks about many players, period, not just at the minor league level. But Arroyo, again, he's 20, but he's handling this season's assignment very well out of the gate. His first 12 games, 318 average, 718 OPS. And as pitchers adjust to him, like it is for any top prospect at any level, there are going to be some struggles. But what Arroyo does better than maybe anybody in the minors, and certainly better than anybody in the Giant system, is he adjusts back quickly. And so I'm excited to see what Christian Arroyo can do at that level too, because that's going to be a fun thing to watch. And for Giants fans, there's so much talent coming up in that system that's centered around the middle infield. That's a guy who's probably going to stick in the middle infield, where a lot of these guys can be moved around, and the Lucius Foxes of the world have the athleticism to play a lot of places. Christian Arroyo, I think, is going to factor very heavily into a middle infield picture in San Francisco in pretty short order. Strike three, Sam. This week's guest on the show before the show we are really excited to talk to, and it's coming up here in a few minutes. Now major leaguer Matt Buschmann. Optioned this week back down to AAA Reno, but he can say now and for the rest of his life that he is a major leaguer, was a major leaguer, will, as we assume, be a major leaguer again very soon. But for Matt Buschmann, it didn't come quickly. A 2006 draft selection of the San Diego Padres, who spent a whole ton of time, 10 seasons in the minor leagues. He played winter ball in Mexico. He played from coast to coast with minor league affiliates and a whole host of organizations. But finally, this season, got his first taste of major league action. Sam, who in the minor leagues right now strikes you as being one of those guys who is a story unlike really any other story in the minors? Matt Buschmann, 10 years in the minors, had never seen a major league mound and finally gets it at the age of 32. That doesn't happen. I mean, we talked about Mike Hessman so much last season. Mike Hessman, minor league home run king. Yeah, you can make your Crash Davis comments. Mike Hessman saw a decent amount of major league time. It's tough to stick in the minors for a decade and not see the big leagues and then finally make it happen. I mean, to be a lifer like that and finally crack that barrier, and not just as some charity case, you know, a guy's 36 and finally somebody wants to give him a big league at bat in September. It's a really cool story, and there are other guys who are still out there like this.
Yeah, and while we're talking about Buschmann, I mean, we'll reference it a little bit when we talk to him, but there's a great Grantland story on his kind of road. This was written last year when nobody knew if he was going to make the majors this year. Nobody knew where he was going to be this year. But there's a great story on you know, it's still on Grantland's site. Grantland doesn't exist anymore, but if you Google it, you can find it. It's called Matt Buschmann's Yellow Brick Road: Will the Minor League Strikeout King Ever Reach the Majors? It's fun to read now because we know Buschmann has made it. This was written in August 19th, 2015 by Adam Sobsey. So it's interesting to see his quotes in there where he talks about how, you know, he would sign with a team, with an organization, and be told, hey, you know, we want to give you a major league shot. We think you're ready for that. And then he would sign and then see guys with worse stats, see guys his same age, see guys maybe a little older than him kind of get that call before he did. And there's a great quote in there where he talks about, is there some pill I have to take? Everybody says like, oh, we're looking for somebody with major league experience. Well, how do I get that major league experience unless you're going to call me up? Do I just show up? Is there something I need to do? Like,
that's very relatable too, because how many of us
sure.
at, you know, I mean, we're 20s, 30s people our age. How many times were we all applying for jobs out of college where people would say, I need more experience? How am I going to get experience if you don't give me a job?
Yeah, I'm looking for somebody who's 24 with 5 years of experience.
Exactly.
You want somebody who didn't go to college? Is that what you're saying? Or yeah, something like that. So Matt Buschmann's story is very relatable. To answer your question that kind of got us into this segment, who's a guy who I would like to see take that step next? Is a guy who got his start around the same time as Jose Martinez. He's 5 years younger than Buschmann. I couldn't find anybody who's the exact Buschmann story. If anybody can think of anybody, please tweet at us, you know, email us at podcast@milb.com. Let us know. You know, we'll gladly retweet We even use that as potential story ideas going forward. We love to root for these guys who have been, riding the bus, proverbial bus, for a long time to get their chance. But the guy who came to mind for me was Jose Martinez. He was a guy who signed with the Royals back in 2006, I believe, 2007, around then. So he's been there almost a decade now. Just had a monster season last year, broke a PCL record by hitting 384, and that's not just over some small sample. That was over 341 at-bats. There's some luck involved in that. Obviously, the PCL very much favors the hitters, but 384, that was a record for that league, even it being such an offensive league as that one. So that was just insane. Had a OPS above 1,000. It was 1024. Had a 461 on base percentage. So this was not just some small sample blip. This was really, really interesting to see. And I would have loved to have seen that be rewarded with a call-up in September last year as the Royals were fighting for a division place, and obviously what we know ended up being a World Series title. He didn't get that call. Still hasn't gotten that call yet. There is, one nice twist in this story. He was added to the team's 40-man roster back in November, so he is just one call away. As of Tuesday when we were recording this, he's hitting 270 with a 715 OPS, so he's not exactly banging down the door quite yet. But I like to see guys who just, thrive in their craft, especially at the highest level of the minors, get rewarded, like your Matt Buschmanns, like your Jose Martinez's. So I would like to see him at least get that call and get something other than just a spot in the PCL record book.
So that sends us perfectly into this week's interview for the Show Before the Show podcast. Matt Buschmann had to wait a whole heck of a long time to finally see his name on a major league roster, on a major league lineup card, and to cross those white lines into a major league game. And he joins us next to tell us what it was like as episode number 55 of the Show Before the Show continues with Matt Buschmann of the Arizona Diamondbacks next. There are some minor league stories that are kind of the cool, interesting ones, and there are some that transcend to an entirely different plane. And our guest on this week's edition of the Show Before the Show podcast is right-handed pitcher Matt Buschmann of the Arizona Diamondbacks organization, who has had, let's put it this way, a lengthy road to get to the big leagues and a pretty amazing story. And Matt, welcome into the show, man. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on with us. Let's give people kind of the basics on your story. Drafted out of Vanderbilt in 2006, you were a collegiate roommate of David Price. According to a Grantland story that I read from last year, you won more games than David Price in college, which is, something to put on a resume. It's always nice. But making it into the Padres organization, 15th round in 06, and then you're in the minor leagues kind of wandering in the desert that is the minors for 10 seasons. And this year, you made your big league debut at 32. What has the last couple of weeks been like for you? I mean, 3 appearances so far, 4 1/3. Option back down. It seems like kind of a numbers game with the Diamondbacks after playing some long games the last few days, really. But, good numbers at the major league level, a 2.08 ERA in your first 4 1/3 at the major league level. And to do it at 32, to do it after everything you've been through, what has this experience been like the last couple of weeks?
It's been awesome. I mean, I guess I could say I was really, really prepared for that call up. At the end of the day, it's obviously like, it kind of makes that long road all worth it. And just kind of like, it just gives you the feeling that like all that work was for something. And I wasn't wrong in believing that I felt like I could compete at that level. And, and it's just been an awesome experience to be able to accomplish that. And then, and then to get there and pitch and pitch, I felt like I pitched well and, at least take advantage of an opportunity that was given to me. And I feel good about that.
Throughout Matt's career, he's been with the Padres, the Rays, the A's, back with the Rays, with the Reds, with the Orioles, and now with the Diamondbacks. And I know at a lot of those stages, Matt, especially reading that story from last summer, I know there were a bunch of different situations where you would think objectively, all right, this guy's finally going to get the call. And sometimes it just doesn't go that way. Major league organizations have reasons for making certain decisions. Sometimes they are borne out to be very bad reasons for making certain decisions. And instead of you getting the call and proving that you could do it at the major league level, you were kind of left a lot of times wondering what it was going to take to get there. And I mean, this is what's so amazing about this story is it's almost more difficult to do what you have done and continue to be an effective minor league guy without getting that call than it is to go up to the big leagues and really struggle and be sent back down and do that continual bouncing along. I mean, you've walked a tightrope in the minors that's virtually impossible to do. Do you have kind of an appreciation for the longevity of being able to stay in this without getting that first call? And then, of course, the validation of knowing you went up there and you proved yourself for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I think over the last couple of years, I would just, there'd be random times where I'd look back and just be like, you know what? I mean, it's at the very least, it's crazy to me that I've played this long with, without really ever getting, quote unquote released or, playing well enough that teams are still interested in me every offseason, despite my age. And, and that was kind of another thing for me that just said, yeah, like at some point I still feel like I can pitch at the big league level. And if teams are still interested and I can still, put up good numbers every year and at the very least for teams be a good option at AAA that's going to be consistent. And, for me, it was just stay healthy and be consistent and, hopefully an opportunity arises.
And kind of go into this offseason, you do sign with the D-backs or you come into camp with them. Why'd you pick them? Why did they pick you? What was that conversation like this offseason that obviously led to your first big league chance?
Yeah, I mean, after the year before, I think I was pretty frustrated with the year before. I mean, I thought I started off well with the Rays and took my out and thought I had an opportunity. It didn't happen, and then I chose the Reds and I thought I went there and pitched well, and I think they were in a spot where their season wasn't going as planned, and so they were going to give a lot of their young guys some opportunities, and I can understand that. And at the end of the season, it was frustrating, but the Diamondbacks had been interested in me last year, and I talked to Mike Bell, and I thought the conversations I had with Mike Bell were really good. He seemed very honest, and as someone like me that's been playing for so long, all you can ask for is honesty in this game. At that point, it's just let me know that I'm not playing for nothing, that I'm playing for an opportunity if I do perform. And I felt that what he said kind of rang true, and they backed it up. I came in and I loved coming into their camp in spring training. I thought they did everything great. And, I was just really happy to be there, and it just felt like a different place, and it ended up being a different place.
And when you talk about that honesty, I mean, you touched on it a little bit there, but, what exactly was Mike Bell telling you? Was he saying if X domino falls, we're looking at a spot for you? Or what really stood out about what he had said as opposed to other general managers who I'm sure are telling you, left and right, you might get a shot here. What kind of rang true about what he was saying?
Well, they had proven it in years past. They had called up 6-year free agents like myself, and had called up guys that had gone to Reno and pitched well. I believe they had Chassin last year, and he came to them and pitched well, and he got a call up. And so, you're just looking for that team that I understand that there's certain teams that they value things differently, and sometimes they're very, very reluctant to give up a 40-man spot. But it seemed like historically with what they've done, they've made moves based on, production. And since they've done it in the past, I just felt like, all right, well, I feel like I've been in a couple places the years past where it wasn't, production wasn't necessarily a number one value. But I understand that too. And, the Diamondbacks want to win. They want to win now, which is great. And, I feel like they're willing and able to take the best pitcher possible.
And kind of talked about it a little bit here, but kind of take us through just that process, what it's like to go through minor league free agency. I mean, so much of what people focus on in the minors is prospects who are just guys signed, drafted, your national free agents, that kind of thing, and they're in one team. What is it like when you are a 6-year free agent, when you're dealing with these June 15, out clauses, as you kind of mentioned before? What is that whole process like as compared to, a young guy going through a system?
I think it's for the first time in your career, if you haven't had a chance to be on the 40-man, when you become a minor league free agent, you have a chance to have a little bit of leverage. It's, like for 6 years in the minor leagues, you really have none. You can't control what you make. You can't control, you can't put pressure on the team to make a decision about you. I mean, with the Rule 5 draft a little bit, but that's still pretty tough to get through or to get drafted in the Rule 5 draft. But it's the first time you have a little bit of leverage. You have teams competing for you. And so, anytime you can, you try to get some kind of out clause that says, look, if I'm pitching well, I don't want to, stay in a situation where it's just not, I'm going to pitch well all year and nothing's going to happen for it. So I think that's what you look for, and you can start making a little bit more money, so it's not as tough to swallow every year playing for very little money. So yeah, I mean, you're just trying to find the best situation, and you really are just trying to talk to front offices and say, hey, like, is this a really good opportunity for someone like me that has no big league time, and are you guys going to go with all your young guys, or are you looking for the best pitcher possible? And it's trying to kind of set that out and see which one's the best.
Talking with Matt Buschmann of the Arizona Diamondbacks organization, who was optioned back to AAA Reno this week, but it's because the D-backs have been playing a whole host of lengthy games as of late and needed some fresh arms up at the major league level. And Matt, being in Arizona system for the first time, you are so well traveled, not just in your minor league career, but even internationally. I mean, you played in Mexico for parts of 3 or 4 winters with Culiacan and with Mazatlan, and I know that is such an avenue for guys to kind of get an extra look, where maybe somebody's going to see you down there who wouldn't see you in your minor league career, or who maybe just might not take as much notice of, like, man, this guy is really good. What does that avenue provide for guys like you who are sort of looking for maybe those extra innings or extra exposure, who didn't necessarily, maybe jump off the page at scouts during the season? What were those campaigns like for you? Because I know, at the end of a long minor league season, for some guys, it's the last thing you want to do is go down and throw, 80, 90 more innings in some cases. But what was that experience like for you going to Mexico for some winters?
I loved it. I mean, and honestly, it was kind of the reason that it kind of got me back, maybe back to pitching at a level that I, felt like you could maybe finally get to the big leagues. But, I had a rough season my first year in AAA and the PCL, like I think a lot of people do. But it was after that season that I kind of fell off and, kind of started to become like a hidden minor leaguer. And I had to find a way to, reassert myself as someone that was good and could pitch at a high level. And so, after 2010, I went down to Mexico and, I loved it. It's different baseball. The minor leagues is very much about development, and winter ball is about winning. And you get back to just competing, and you kind of become your own coach because you're down there, and it's like the likelihood of your pitching coach speaking English is, 50-50. So you kind of go within yourself. You figure out, all right, this is on me. I'm going to make the changes I need to make. And you just get back to competing instead of worrying about, was I throwing hard enough today? Did the scouts like it? It's just like, I'm going to go win a ball game. And, I think like I said, I just really enjoyed my time in Mexico because it got back to just baseball being fun. And, I think those extra innings helped me make some mechanical adjustments that I need to make, help me add a third pitch. And, from there, I feel like is when, about 2013 is when I feel like I added a third pitch and really was able to take the next step.
All right, Matt, there's 2 more I just kind of want to get to with you quick. I don't think we've quite asked you what the individual moment was like when you got called up. I think you're the first guest we've had on the show who has got that call to the majors. So specifically for you, what was that moment like? And what is it like now being back in Reno, having gotten that taste? What's it going to be like kind of going forward for you?
Well, it was awesome getting the call. Phil Nevin's the manager in Reno, and I was in my apartment. We had just played our first game, and he asked me where I was, and he said, "Oh, we need to talk." And he's like, "Well, let's meet at this bar." And okay. And I didn't know what it was, but you have a feeling, but after 10 years, you don't really trust your assumptions. You just kind of go, well, I don't know. It could be bad or good. He showed up and, I had a water, and he's like, "You got a water? What are you doing? What are you drinking water?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know what kind of drink to get, if it's a good drink or a bad drink." And so then he sat down and he's like, "It's nothing bad, but we're just waiting for one more person." And Mike Bell, director of minor league coordinator, and he came and he's like, we're waiting for him. And he sat down. And it was like this 10-minute process. I'm like, just tell me what you need to tell me. And so finally he's like, "Look, I can't tell a guy who's going to the big leagues for the first time over the phone. I wanted to tell him in person." And, it just like, I just kind of went numb, and I got, it was very emotional, and I just had this big smile on my face. And, it just went through my head, all the people that had really that helped me throughout the years. And it was really emotional in a good way. And I got a chance to call my wife and wake her up and wake my parents up. And it was a really cool phone call to make. As far as being back in Reno, I understand the part of it. I just, my whole thing for 10 years has been give me an opportunity, and they gave me one. And I did as good as I possibly could with that opportunity. And, outside of that, I really can't, I don't worry about anything else. It's just that I need to continue to pitch well. And, whatever happens after that is kind of out of my control.
All right, Matt, a few quick ones for you. And I have to start with this one. Your Twitter background photo right now is the nameplate of your D-backs jersey, which is the home jersey with the gray back with the name outlined in the new neon teal. What do you think about the uniforms this year? Because it's been a point of conversation, obviously, across the world of baseball, and me being a uniform nerd and having a first guy from the D-backs organization on since the change. Your thoughts on the uniforms go.
Like anybody else, I think when I first saw him in spring training, it's just different. And, I think historically baseball is very weird to different. It takes a long time to make changes in this game, but, I didn't think they were bad. But the more I wear them, the more I like them. I'm going back and forth with which ones I like, the dark gray or the home whites. I think the dark gray with the teal is really cool looking. But the whites with the Sedona red jerseys, I think are growing on me. So I think they're really cool, and I get what they were trying to do with the design. I think it's awesome.
All right, I like that. I do love how they incorporated the old school teal with the Sedona red. I think that's very neat, forward thinking kind of move. Two other quick things. Number one, Matt, if you look at Matt's Twitter feed, he appears to be a big fan of the Crying Jordan meme, which makes me an even bigger fan of Matt because that's the greatest thing on the internet today. Secondly, Matt's got a phenomenal head of hair, of which I'm very jealous, and it looks fantastic in his D-backs headshot. But this is the thing that I wanted to ask you about before we let you out of here. You were kind of part of the genesis of what the Vanderbilt program has turned into. Tim Corbin got there in 2003. You were drafted in 2006. During that span alone, you guys made a super regional in 2004. You made a regional in 2006. And since then, Vandy baseball has been the gold standard in the college game. What has that been like for you to see the heights that program has risen to, the products that they've created? I mean, from you and David Price and Sonny Gray, and now Carson Fulmer coming out last year, all the talent that's come out of that program. And to know that you guys, your class, your group was kind of part of the genesis of that. I mean, how much pride do you take in something like that now that every year it seems like SEC title, regional, super regional, competing for a national championship?
Oh, it's a huge honor, just to have been a part of that program and really be a part of Tim Corbin. He is kind of the mastermind of that whole thing, and to be at the start of that is just really, really cool. And it just makes me really proud every day to see what that program's done and to know that, not only that I was a part of it, but also that I can say that I, help represent, Vanderbilt University baseball as much as I can, even though I'm not there playing. So, and it's just interesting. It's kind of funny because the guys that we played with, not necessarily the David Prices of the world, but some other guys, it's like, I don't know if I'd be recruited by Vanderbilt if I was coming out of high school right now. They've gotten so good. So, it's been awesome. And, I try to stay, obviously I talk to Corbin a lot and DJ, who's Derek Johnson, who's the pitching coach there, who's now the pitching coach of the Brewers. But, I think we all just, knowing where we started and where it's come to, you look back and say, it's just awesome. And I love watching them every year and keep up with them and, you root for them.
The Vandy boys are all over Twitter. Matt Buschmann is one of them. He is at Bush, BUSCH 26. You can follow Matt there. And of all the accomplishments, Matt, over the last few weeks, I know that joining the Minor League Baseball podcast is probably first and foremost among them. Glad we got a chance to talk to you because I'm very sure that we will not be able to talk to you as a minor leaguer for long because I would imagine you're going to be headed back up in very short order. And congratulations, man. This is such an awesome story, and it's great for us to get a chance to talk to you and congratulate you on all the success. And we'll be watching for you in Arizona real soon.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. And thank you for having me on.
This is the rarest of weeks in the minor league baseball podcasting world in that for the second time this week, we're dropping a podcast on you with our good pal Benjamin Hill. Ben, welcome back. It's good to have you. This is episode 55 and episode 54 and a half. We just dropped on Tuesday, which you and I had a whole lot of fun with.
Yeah, the special edition, the minor league team theme songs edition. Really glad that is out into the world right now and people can listen to all the songs that we've been obsessing over for the last several weeks and months. And really hope a lot of people have fun listening to that one. Team theme songs for an hour plus.
If you missed it, go to your podcasting app, go on to iTunes Podcasts, or go to milb.com/podcast. I think it's just slash because it's 2016. What am I saying?
No, slash is back. GNR. I'm going to go see them in July.
No.
Oh man, that was good. That was a good segue. But go find that episode.
Jumped on it. Like he heard your reference and was like, "No, I'm going right to the mic right
Yeah,
now."
what am I going to do? Sit on my duff?
But go find that episode. We had a ton of fun recording it. Ben tracked down dozens of team theme songs and jingles and stuff, and we had a whole pile of fun recording that last week. It's up on the site right now. It's on iTunes right now as well. Be forewarned, there are songs. Mike Abramson of the Hartford Yard Goats put it this way. When Hartford released its jingle, he told the Hartford Current, once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And that's basically the description for this entire episode of the podcast. So if you're a person like me who has a song stuck in your head 24 hours a day, it could be a bit of a struggle for you after you hear this. But it'll be a fun struggle because it's a ton of really fun songs. In addition to that, when we talk to Ben from now on this season, when we have songs, we are going to feature them as a bit of a segment within a segment. So send your favorite minor league team jingle or theme song or fight song or whatever. Send it to Ben. Send it to the podcast at milb.com. You can tweet at Ben as well. He is at Ben's Biz. We can get all of those songs compiled. We'll continue to feature them as the season goes along. We know there are a lot more out there, and we wanted to, put a show together, feature some of the best and brightest, and we'll continue that going forward because that was a lot of fun, and it's something that'll be really great to feature on the podcast in the weeks and months ahead.
Absolutely. We're going to keep having fun with it.
Keep having fun. Eat it up. Eat up the good times. Eat up the fun. Ben, road trip week. This is one of the biggest weeks of the season for you. Your road trip itinerary is here. Road trip itineraries. I don't know, one of them. But 2016, you've been doing this since 2010, visiting ballparks across the country. And this year, do you finish them off?
I do not.
Oh, okay. Next year we had talked about.
But this is the penultimate year.
Okay, good.
And I see a clear path to completion in 2017.
A clear path to the nomination.
Yes. So I'm really looking forward to that. It'll be the first year where it's never easy making the itineraries, but I have it narrowed down already. I've never gone into the whole next season knowing what I'm going to do, and my goal next year is to collect them all. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. 2016, this week I put up on the blog, Ben's Biz blog, my trip itineraries for this season, starting in a few weeks. The first one is in North and South Carolina. And the motivation for that was, of course, there's a new team in South Carolina, the Columbia Fireflies. And whenever there's a new stadium, a new team, that always usually helps me contextualize a road trip. So looking at the schedules and being like, I want to go to Columbia, I put a little Carolinas trip together, and that's where we're going to start off for the season, May 6th in Greensboro through May 13th in Zebulon, the home of the Carolina Mudcats. And I've never done an itinerary like that before, in which I basically go in a very imperfect circle, but I'm basically starting and finishing in the same location. I think I'm going to fly in and out of Durham. So looking forward to that. And then the next month in June 3rd and 4th, it's not even a trip. It's just a jaunt. It's just a weekend in Hartford to see the other new team this year, the Yard Goats. Of course, I have to go to Dunkin' Donuts Park. That stadium hasn't even opened yet, and let's hope it's open by the time I get there. Otherwise, I'll just stand outside the gates and pout. And, you don't want to travel all that way just to pout. So I'm looking forward to seeing the game, getting Hartford's goat, as it were. And then, big trip, June 25th through July 4th, every single Appy League team. West Division and then the East Division. I've only been to 2 Appy League teams ever. That was Danville and Burlington back in 2011. So this time I'm hitting them all. Greenville, Kingsport, Johnson City, Bristol, Elizabethton, Princeton, Bluefield, Pulaski, Danville, and Burlington. 10 teams, 10 days, all of the Appy League. Really excited to go into that one. I get a lot of feedback through the years, people saying you need to go to the Appy League or you need to spend more time there because it's really distinct. It's baseball as it used to be, which to a lot of people is baseball as how it was meant to be. Either way, I was meant to go, and I'm looking forward to it. And finally, a big West Coast, Nevada, Pacific Northwest trip at the end of the year. Not the most sensible itinerary, but now that I'm getting close to visiting every stadium and I'm really trying to prioritize places I haven't gone, I've got some more Northern California teams like Sacramento and Stockton. Later on in the trip, I detour in the Nevada, hit the Las Vegas 51s and the Reno Aces, and then I've complete the Northwest League and hit the final 3 teams I've yet to hit in the Northwest League: Boise, Tri-City, who are based in I always get mixed up. Is it Wasco or Pasco?
Pasco, yeah.
Pasco.
Which is part of the the Tri-City area is 3. It's Pasco, Kennewick, and I can never, ever remember the third one. I used to go to my freshman year of college. I went to Washington State, which is a short drive from there, and that was 13 years ago, and I still have not figured out what the third city in that is. So
yeah,
I
this
apologize,
is,
Tri-City.
you talk about the perpetual East Coast bias, but there's the Tri-City Valley Cats. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Albany, Troy, and Schenectady. Who doesn't know that?
Right.
Tri-City Dust Devils out in the West Coast.
Richland.
Remember.
Richland, Kennewick, and Pasco.
Richland,
I had to
Kennewick,
Google
and Pasco.
it. I'm sorry, people in the Tri-Cities. I had to Google it.
Richland, Kennewick, and Pasco. I will certainly have that down by the time I visit the Tri-City Dust Devils on August 11th. And then my final stop, August 12th, Spokane, and that'll end that trip. So I'm really packing in the trips really in not much more than a 3-month period, starting May 6th on that first trip and ending my last trip on August 12th. So a few less places than last year, but those 3 months will certainly be very busy.
I just want to jump in real quick before Sam hits you with the next question. But Ben was out here in Denver recently and avoided seeing me, and also has not scheduled a trip to Colorado Springs until next year. So I'm just taking it very personally. I just want to point it out. But it's okay. Whatever.
Okay.
It's fine. It's fine, Ben.
No,
fine.
it's
You
all
wanna
right.
hang out.
You're
It's cool.
you're a sensitive soul, and we've learned that, especially in doing the podcast. You take things very seriously, and I appreciate how enthusiastic you are and how much you care about what you do. But you're very sensitive, and sometimes your hurt feelings really they shouldn't be hurt. We're just all working together. But I know you internalize these things, and you need time to process it. And we're gonna come through this stronger on the other side. All of us.
We're all going to work through it together. And we like you the way you are, Tyler. I think that's the...
You love me, you guys. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, so the one thing I wanted to get to, you kind of talked about, was the Appy League. I think that's a league a lot of people just don't really know what the atmosphere is like unless they're there. So what are you particularly looking forward to about that kind of trip?
Well, in the general sense, and the tagline I've developed for myself over years of doing this is exploring America through minor league baseball. So I'm always trying to look at, no matter where I go, what makes every park unique. What are the things that make it stand out? And so there's something unique, obviously, about everywhere, but I think it'll be easier to find the uniqueness, at least relative to the rest of the minor league world in the Appy League, because you're talking about the smallest markets in sometimes, cities that are maybe not so much cities as towns, and stadiums that might have more of a rec league atmosphere. That's REC, not a WRECK, like a recreation league. Something very old-fashioned. Where there's going to be less promotions, less between-inning stuff, smaller crowds. The diehards are people who really know each other, because when you're in Johnson City or Elizabethton or Pulaski, these places aren't that big. So I think there's going to be potentially, I don't want to say a greater sense of community, but a more concentrated sense of community. And I often find the smaller teams in the older stadiums, you find the more eccentric people and more of the nooks and crannies to explore, and a little bit more weirdness as well. And that's something that's always something I look forward to. So Appy League all the way. And I'm excited about it. There's been various front office people in the Appy League, mainly in Johnson City, who've in a flattering way have harassed me for years to come. And I'm very, very grateful to finally get the opportunity.
You're going at a cool time of year, too. That'll be fun. I mean, leading into 4th of July, it's the start of the season in the Appy League for short season, that second week of June. But it's a really good time of the year to be exploring kind of that cradle of minor league baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. Ending on July 4th in Burlington, North Carolina, seeing a rookie-level team in a 70-year-old stadium-ish, 65, 70 years old. That's America.
And what do you look for in these new places? Like when you are going to Hartford and you're going to Columbia, I mean, you talk about the Appy League. There are these places that have these established identities. There's guys who've been going there for decades, it feels like, or guys and girls who have been going there for decades. But what are you looking for in these new places when you visit them for the first time?
Well, again, the same thing. What makes it unique? But with a new park, you're obviously kind of flipping the script a little bit. There's no history. The team is making its history, in real time. So everything's new and sleek and glossy, and it's so for a certain extent, it's not. I don't want to say more boring for me, but it's more spelled out in advance what I'm going to do. When you go to Kingsport or Johnson City in the Appy League, I probably won't really know what I'm going to write about and cover until I'm there and these things open up to me. When you go to Hartford, when you go to Dunkin' Donuts Park, you know what you're covering. It's the new stadium. So a lot of it is just a basic overview, a tour of the facility, the scoreboards and the concourse and the food. I do that everywhere, but here it's more saying, like, look what they chose to do here. With a blank slate, they chose to do this, and here's why. Or here's something that's never been before done, and here's why they're doing it. So it's just really a chance to get a first look or a relatively early look at an entirely new operation and to explain why they've made the choices they've made to the extent I can explain it, and just to show what the atmosphere is like, because a lot of people don't yet have an idea of what these places look like. Columbia Fireflies, in South Carolina, or Hartford Yard Goats in Hartford, Connecticut. These are new places, and I'm excited to explore, and I'm excited to bring my findings back to the wider world. I'm like an explorer. I'm like the Ponce de Leon of 21st century minor league baseball.
I was going to ask you if you were a Lewis or a Clark, but I guess Ponce de Leon works too.
Yeah. Hey, I'm looking for that fountain of youth. Yeah.
Aren't we all?
Like Ferdinand de Soto discovered the Mississippi, like they wouldn't have found that anyway. It's a deep cut. That's a Seinfeld deep cut. Anybody who is out there laughing right now, one day when I see you, I'll give you a hug. Let's move on to promo watch for this week as we near the end of April already somehow, or at least getting close to it. The life-size bobblehead Hall of Fame in Harrisburg is open for business. Vlad Guerrero is on hand, who continues to be just a picture of cool. Vlad Guerrero, who still looks like he could go out and probably hit 330 in the major leagues, which I would not doubt that he still would be able to do at this age. When he was 21 back in 1996, OPS 1050 over 118 games for the Harrisburg Senators, and became the first inductee to the life-size bobblehead Hall of Fame in Harrisburg last week.
Yeah, in this week's promo watch column, I decided to focus on that because I thought it was probably the most unique thing that happened in minor league baseball over the week. We've mentioned it on the podcast before, but team Hall of Fames are pretty common around minor league baseball. And if you like history and you're a fan, which of course many of us are, it's cool to see, the plaques and the placards. Whatever. Yeah, sure. It's cool to see team Hall of Fames. That's all I'm saying. But they don't really catch one's eye if you're there just in the affordable family entertainment context, in which you're just looking for a good time and wandering around. They appeal to people who already have a baseball knowledge. So I really like what Harrisburg has done. They've started a Hall of Fame, but they've made every inductee, they are honored via a life-size bobblehead, which is now permanently on the concourse. So that's a way to, one, just have a great visual, a great photo op, and also another way, too, to tell the story of the franchise. And hopefully these people coming in, young fans, can use that as a jumping off point to actually learn more and kind of get excited about what they're seeing and how it fits into a larger context. But Vlad Guerrero showed up on Saturday, and by all accounts, and talking with the team and his own Twitter account and the pictures, just seemed to have a fantastic time being inducted into the Harrisburg Senators Hall of Fame with the life-size bobblehead, threw out a first pitch, signed autographs, and later this season I'm going to do the same thing with Cliff Floyd, and he's going to show up and be there for his life-size bobblehead induction. And the third inductee this year is Bryce Harper, who will not be there because he'll have other things to do, but he's the third and final inductee. So it's just a really cool thing to think on the concourse. There's going to be this growing number of life-size bobbleheads, each one representing a player in the Team Hall of Fame. And it's a kind of idea that I'd like to see more teams adapt to their own needs. They should adopt that idea and adapt it to their own needs.
There you go.
And I'm looking forward to seeing that down the line. I think this is going to catch on.
And what kind of update can you give us? We talked about this last week, and we even got somebody reach out to us on Twitter saying we taught them what Netflix and chill was. So how did Binghamton's Netflix and chill night go now that it's past us?
Yeah, we mentioned it last week and how funny it was when in the off season Binghamton said we're going to do a Netflix and chill promo, and then Twitter and a lot of sports blogs jumped all over him like, you don't know what that means, and what a stupid idea, and you can't Netflix and chill at the ballpark. That's a private thing. And, it's a slang term that not everyone knows. And the B-Mets were just like, oh, no, what are you talking about? Like, we just mean that it's a cold night, it's April, so we're going to Netflix and chill. We're going to just be in a cold ballpark. That's the chill part, and we're going to see clips from our favorite Netflix shows, and I don't know what you guys are talking about. And then they went ahead and did it, and all the people who were outraged or making fun of them didn't even notice. I love it. I love that about the internet. Very, very short attention span theater. So the B-Mets actually did do Netflix and chill promo, ran contests with various Netflix trivia throughout the night. And in the Speedy race, Speedy being a marinated meat sandwich that's popular in Binghamton, it's usually between the Speedy sandwich, marinade, and Chef. And Chef actually decided not to run in the race, and instead he Netflixed and chilled with a lady friend, and the team made a video of that. And welcome to Minor League Baseball 2016.
We should point out, by Netflix and chilling and them making a video of it, they're just on the couch in front of a TV. That's all it is.
Well, he put his arm around her.
Oh.
Yeah, so they're very much chilling and nothing else.
Ben, before we let you go, there was some news today that came out. The Lake Elsinore Storm made an announcement about the Midway Classic, which will be coming up in a tribute to me on my birthday. June 21st at the Diamond in Lake Elsinore is the California-Carolina League All-Star Game. Prior to that, Lake Elsinore is going to put together a home run derby. That's a really cool idea that another team did before. Give us some of the details on that.
Yeah, well, the Storm, any good idea is worth copying, so this is a great idea on the Storm. They're holding the All-Star Game Home Run Derby on the USS Midway, which is, by the way, is a great name to do something during an All-Star break, because it's literally midway through the season.
Wow,
nicely
done.
Yeah,
I
read the press release like twice, and then I was like, oh, what a great tie-in, and it was maybe accidental more than anything. But they're holding the Home Run Derby on the USS Midway, and the players are going to be hitting baseballs off the deck of a carrier, I guess an aircraft carrier. What else would you carry? And the Home Run Derby will be hitting balls off the deck of this aircraft carrier, into the water, and the balls, I believe, will be retrieved by volunteers on jet skis. And those with long memories, which on the internet means more than 3 months, or maybe more than 3 days, will remember that 4 years ago, the Charleston River Dogs did the exact same thing when they hosted the South Atlantic League Home Run Derby. That was on the deck of the USS Yorktown, I believe. And that did win the 2012 MILB.com Milby Promo of the Year. So nice 4 years later to see the Storm jump on that idea and have a Home Run Derby on the deck of an aircraft carrier, the USS Midway, the Midway Classic. And it's your birthday as well, Tyler?
It is. June 21st is my birthday, so the day of the All-Star Game is my birthday. So
right, well,
thank you, California Carolina League.
The Monway Classic. That's
the Monway Classic. The USS Midway, by the way, is currently a museum in the Bay in San Diego. It's a fantastic museum. I went there about 10 years ago now, prior to the 06 World Baseball Classic semifinals and championship in San Diego. And it's really cool. If you're in San Diego, just to go to the museum, it's really cool. But to see this is going to be awesome. It was commissioned in 1945, decommissioned in 1992, and now it's really kind of a focal point of some of the history. We know how much the Padres do there, honoring the Navy and the Marines and all the presence that the military has in the San Diego area. So go check out the Midway. What I'm interested in for this, and Ben, you might be able to shed some light on this before we wrap things up, but there's a big tower on an aircraft carrier. I mean, that's where all the communication center is in the tower, where you get to look over the jetway. The bow of the ship is where home plate is going to be stationed. Check that. The bow of the ship is where the hitters will be hitting toward, and then 250 feet away on the other end of the ship is where home plate is going to be. But how do they protect? Do you have any idea what they do to protect? What if dudes are just blasting line drives, like into windows?
You know what? I'm not sure how they're going to be setting this one up logistically. But aren't they going to be hitting the balls into the bay?
I just feel like if you're throwing them down, I don't know. We're going to need a map from this. Lake Elsinore, send us, because this is an awesome idea, but we're nerdy enough that we need to actually visualize it. But that's up at the Storm site right now, stormbaseball.com. They're going to do a cool kind of not a round robin way, but a quarterfinal setup where it's Carolina hitter versus Carolina hitter in 2 brackets, California versus California in 2, and then the meeting of those champions for the semifinals and the finals. They'll cross leagues eventually, and it's going to be really cool. So go check that out. And it's amazing that we're already talking about mid-season All-Star Game affairs, but only a couple of months away. So that'll be a fun one in Lake Elsinore. It'll be a cool showcase for the California and Carolina League. And another thing that's really neat about it, a lot of these guys aren't going on to the big leagues. When you get to have the feeling of like, yeah, I once participated in a home run derby on the deck of an aircraft carrier in the bay in San Diego, that's going to be a lifelong memory for not only the guys who are in it, but the people who get to watch it. So that's really cool.
Absolutely. That's what we're all about. That's what everything we're talking about is about.
So minor league baseball, all about making memories. Benjamin Hill's on Twitter. You can find him at Ben's Biz. You can check out the blog. You can find road trip itineraries and all that kind of stuff. bensbiz.mlblogs.com. You can also get in touch if you choose to put yourself on the line to be a designated eater, because there are still some open spots for that. I know Myrtle Beach, you're still looking for one. Columbia, you're still looking for one. So if you want to be a designated eater for Ben, get in touch for that as well. There's a lot of open Happy League spots for that. And go check out all of that stuff and see where Ben's going to be coming through the minor league ballpark nearest you. And Ben had a whole ton of fun putting together the Team Songs podcast, and we'll continue that sweetness as we roll along the season. And thanks, man. Great work with that, and great work with this, as always.
Thank you. Great work by you. Great work by Sam. Everything has been done really well. And I'd like to note that Sam and I are both good civic citizens, and we're both wearing I voted stickers today.
Hey, nice job.
Yeah.
Nice job.
We're good people.
Yeah.
I had to caucus, which was annoying. It's like 1842 out here, and we had a caucus. It was dumb.
No, we keep everything in private. So.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ben Hill, he's on Twitter at Ben's Biz.
Yeah, so now from that voting discussion, you have to make a delegate transition.
Bye, Ben. Again, you can find Arizona Diamondbacks prospect Matt Buschmann. He is on Twitter at BushBusch26, and Benjamin Hill is at Ben's Biz. And that brings us to the final segment of episode number 55 of the Show Before the Show podcast. Get in touch with us, podcast at MILB.com. Sam is on Twitter. He's at Sam Dykstra, MILB. I am at Tyler Mon, and you can find us there and give us your questions, thoughts, comments, concerns. Find us on iTunes. Give us a nice rating and a review if you are so kind. And you can also find us on the website, MILB.com/podcast. If you're listening to us, obviously you found us. So thanks again for tuning into this week's edition of the show. Sam, MILB.TV back and better than ever for 2016. What's coming up?
Yeah, so a series I'm kind of looking at for this weekend, so 2 days after everybody will be listening to this, on Saturday, Hartford and Portland are playing they're scheduled for a doubleheader, weather permitting. Right now it's starting at 1 o'clock. And the reason I'm interested in that game is just because that Hartford roster is really just loaded with talent between David Dahl, who's gotten off to a really, really powerful start, Ryan McMahon, Raimel Tapia, Kyle Freeland or Antonio Senzatella could be pitching that weekend. German Marquez. So there's a lot of talent to like on that Hartford roster, and the fact that they're playing twice that day means everybody gets to watch, twice the action with that team. So I think that's a good opportunity to see, a good team. They might be mixing up their lineup a little bit because it is a doubleheader. But anytime you get a chance to see a loaded team like that, and you can do it twice as you can this Saturday, try to take advantage when you can.
I'm going to go a couple days earlier than that. If you're listening to this podcast on the day that it drops, Thursday the 21st, the Chicago Cubs, you'll get an interesting look at a prospect who intrigues me. And if you've listened to this podcast, or if you're Sam and you have to listen to me talk about these things all the time, I'm always fascinated by guys who come from sort of non-traditional places, especially in the minor leagues. Taiwanese right-hander Jen Ho-Sang, who's the number 24 prospect in the Chicago Cubs organization, will go for Tennessee that day. It's actually a morning game, not a night game. So if you're tuned into the podcast now, there's a good chance that it's on, because it starts at 11:35 a.m. Eastern time. Podcast will be out before that, so there's a good chance you can catch some of that. But Jen Ho-Sang, I got a chance to talk about him with some Cubs personnel in Arizona last month. It's a guy who They're high on his potential. He definitely has a lot of stuff that he needs to work on in terms of rediscovering some of what made him kind of a breakout prospect in 2014. Last year put up some very good numbers at Class A Advanced Myrtle Beach. Didn't really blow the world away, but he still gets the assignment to AA Tennessee to start the season. He's just 21. He's from Taipei. It's so rare that we see Taiwanese guys or Japanese guys or Korean guys come up through the minor leagues, because so often they'll just go to the professional ranks at home and then sign kind of a major league level contract over here. So that's really interesting to me. It's more common with the Taiwanese guys than the other Asian countries that play baseball at a really high level. But Jen Ho-Sang, give him a look. Fascinating prospect and a guy who should be fun to watch, taking on Montgomery on Thursday. Chris Kirsch is scheduled to get the nod for the Biscuits on that day. And as Ben told you on the earlier special edition of the Show Before the Show podcast this week, Montgomery's Biscuits are out of sight.
And that's a great opportunity to have like a meta moment. If anybody can prove to us that you are watching Jen Ho-Sang while listening to the podcast.
While
listening to the podcast, and specifically listening to the part where Tyler is talking about Jen Ho-Sang.
Yeah.
Weird. We will give you a retweet from us.
Be like an episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah, we'll get you a retweet from the @Milb account. So if anybody out there listening can do that for us, we will make sure that you get some sort of benefit out of it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, please send in your pictures of listening to us while watching Jen Ho-Sang, and we'll do something fun with it.
Another full week of baseball all across the minor leagues, and keep in mind, we're just 2 months away from the start of short season ball as well. So in case you were thinking, you know what, I need more minors in my life, if you are somebody who's, up in Boise or out in Greenville with an E in the middle of it behind the N, get excited, because we're only a couple of months away from that as well. So until next week, Sam, phenomenal work as always.
Yeah, this was a fun double week, and
I like this
we'll try to pack in the fun of the team songs in with our normal content next week.
Definitely. Good stuff from Matt Buschmann, and a big thanks to Matt for joining us, and a big congratulations to him as well. And until next week, enjoy another week of full slate of games across the minors, and we'll talk to you then for episode number 56.